The iPhone 17s have a bunch of hidden features, and today I want to show you everything about these phones that you haven't seen yet. Because just as many big features as Apple added, there's just as much below the surface this year, and I guarantee there's at least one thing in this video that you haven't seen anywhere else. And I want to start off with the front of the iPhone 17 Pro. As at the top, Apple's made the front speaker earpiece about twice as large as last year, and you can really see the difference when you compare it to the previous iPhone 16 Pro. It's huge this time. But up until now, we didn't know why they changed this. Well, play pretty much any song and you will notice the difference immediately. As not only is the quality and fidelity of audio significantly better this year, but it also gets noticeably louder than the iPhone 16 Pro. And here's just a quick audio sample so you can hear it for yourself.
Wake me up before I go back again. Wake me up before I go back again.
Listening between these two, the iPhone 16 Pro almost sounds muffled, where the iPhone 17 Pro is super rich and the kind of sound quality that you'd want on your iPhone. And on the bottom of the iPhone 17 Pro, the speakers here are now symmetrical on both sides of the USB-C port once again. On previous iPhones, there was an uneven number on the left and right, so aesthetically, it just looks a lot nicer too. Another defining feature on the iPhone 17 Pro is the much larger camera bar here, but Apple did not change this only to make it look different, because it's actually the central component of a redesigned Wi-Fi and cellular antenna band array, with the antennas no longer going on all portions of the phone and actually wrapping around the entire camera bar in 360 degrees. Not only is this a pretty clever way to hide the antennas, but it does seem like it's made cellular reception better too, as in a few tests I've run, I've noticed an extra bar of 5G on the 17 Pro versus last year's 16 Pro, even on the same carrier with the same cellular setup. Obviously, a bit more testing is needed to confirm this, but it makes sense if you have a much larger antenna, yeah, you're probably gonna get better reception too. Now, this antenna change is on all iPhone 17 Pros, but if you buy an iPhone 17 Pro in the United States specifically, there's also another antenna cutout that sits directly at the top of the device, and it definitely looks a little bit out of place. This is actually a special translucent window that allows the fastest type of mmWave 5G to work, which still to this day is only available in the United States for some reason. I just think it's way more noticeable now, as previously it was over on the right side of the phone and it basically got blocked by your hand. I mean, this is front and center at all times, and I don't really like the way it looks. But while that's something you can see, there's a way more controversial change that Apple has hidden this year. And that's that Apple has made iPhones with a SIM tray physically worse than eSIM only iPhones without one. See, previously iPhones without a SIM tray just had this block of plastic on the iPhone where the SIM tray used to be. So Apple didn't actually add anything for years by removing it. But that all changed on this year's iPhone 17 Pro, as you now get a physically larger battery on the eSIM only iPhone 17 Pro with a few percent larger capacity versus the iPhone with a SIM tray. And I gotta give it to Apple for this one. I couldn't figure out how they would eventually justify removing the SIM tray, as it seems like a pretty integral part of the phone in a lot of markets around the world. But the second you tell somebody they get more battery without a SIM tray, I think that's a really easy sell. Now, maybe the most controversial change on the iPhone 17 Pros this year is that Apple got rid of titanium and went back down to aluminum, which is a much cheaper feeling material. And while you would think that would also make the phones lighter, as aluminum does not physically weigh as much as titanium, somehow the iPhone 17 Pro actually weighs more than the iPhone 16 Pro, which was really surprising to me. But way more interesting to me is that not all iPhone 17 Pro colors are as durable as the others. We've already seen some early reports that the dark blue iPhone 17 Pro in particular seems to be more prone to scrapes and scuffs versus the orange or the naturally colored silver aluminum. And it likely explains why at launch there are only 3 colors for the iPhone 17 Pro, and specifically no black colorway at all this time around for the Pros. It probably just chipped off and did not hold up, so Apple didn't release it, which is definitely a weird reason that black is not on the Pros, but now suddenly seeing how the blue is holding up, I definitely see why they didn't release black at all. Now on the iPhone 17, at some point it's going to run out of battery, and that's why I partnered up with with Ugreen to show you their new MagFlow magnetic power bank. This supports the latest Qi 2 25-watt charging standard and can actually take the iPhone 17 Pro Max from 0 to 50% in just 38 minutes. The magnetic force on this is super strong, and there's even a cool LED screen that shows the remaining battery percentage in real time on the side. Probably the coolest part is the built-in USB-C cable that also doubles as a carry strap. This supports 30 watts of power delivery, input and output. And when you combine the wireless charging pad and the 2 USB-C ports, you can charge up to 3 devices at the same time, like your iPhone, AirPods, and Apple Watch. And with a massive 10,000 milliamp hour capacity, you can charge an iPhone 17 Pro Max around 2 times. On top of that, Ugreen also has their MagFlow magnetic wireless charger, which is a 2-in-1, offering 25 watts of fast charging for your iPhone and another device. So check out the Ugreen MagFlow lineup using my link down below in the description. A huge thank you to Ugreen for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to it. Of course though, the iPhone 17 Pro's larger camera bar also means the cameras are way better too. And Apple has definitely delivered with a new 8x telephoto, one that for the first time ever on the iPhone can now digitally zoom all the way up to 40x from your phone. Previously, iPhones could only go to 25x, so this is a massive change year over year, and it's the closest we've ever gotten to seeing a proper super zoom functionality on the iPhone. Just be warned that images at 40x don't look the best because at the end of the day, this is a digital zoom. And while that's limited to just the 17 Pros, all iPhone 17s now have the dual video recording feature, where you can record the back camera and the front-facing camera simultaneously. Now, this is a feature that Apple has promoted a lot, but what they didn't mention is that you can drag the front-facing camera mini window around to either of the 4 corners, similar to the front-facing camera on something like a FaceTime call. Just note that you have to do this in real time when you're recording, and there's no way to change where the mini window is in post. So wherever you move it as you're recording, that is where it will be forever in the final video file. Similarly, Apple's also talked a lot about the upgraded front cameras on the 17s. They can now automatically frame you using AI to get more people in a wide-angle selfie. But this feature also works automatically during FaceTime calls. At first, this sounded a bit gimmicky, but it was actually pretty cool to be able to move around my kitchen and always be in frame to the person I'm talking to without having to move my phone around on my own. Following this, all iPhone 17s finally have 120Hz ProMotion, so regardless of which model you buy, you get Apple's best display ever that continues to be OLED. But as great as OLED displays look to most people, some folks are more sensitive and can see the pixels flickering because of the underlying technology. Well, on the iPhone 17 series, Apple's introduced a new accessibility option to disable what is known as PWM, or pulse width modulation. By enabling this, you get a different way to dim the OLED display, which can make it look a little bit smoother, especially at low brightness levels, and notably improve the viewing experience for people that are sensitive to this. To be clear, this isn't an option that most users will need, but it is there for the people that do. And cool that Apple is listening. They continue to be at the top of their game for accessibility features. Next, I want to show you a few interesting changes on the iPhone Air specifically, because the more I looked at this design, the more it didn't really seem possible. And if you do look close, well, there's definitely a few compromises Apple made to achieve this. For starters, the dynamic island is inset more on the iPhone Air compared to any previous iPhone. So side by side, even with a 17 Pro, you can see it's a few millimeters lower, and it got me thinking, well, why did Apple do that? And if you turn the phone around, you can see it perfectly lines up to the top of the camera bar on the Air, as Apple basically needed to lower it in order to fit the components in a design this thin. You'll also notice something similar when you look at the bottom of the iPhone Air, as the USB-C port on here is not centered within the Y-axis, meaning that it's actually slightly closer to the rear of the iPhone Air than to the front. The reason for this is that Apple had to fit the entire display assembly in front of that component, and with the USB-C port being like the entire thickness of the phone, they had to move it back a bit just so everything would fit inside this device. The way more obvious design compromise on the Air is the single camera, which Apple claims is multiple lenses in your pocket, but at the end of the day, there is physically just one. Of course, you can zoom to 2x if you need, doing a telephoto crop on the 48 megapixel sensor, and it turns out there's also a hidden 1.1 times lens you can enable too. For some reason, Apple has put this in settings, so in addition to the 26mm that is the default 1x, you can also enable a 28mm 1.1 times lens. I've been thinking about why this could be here for days, and I really don't know, because a 1.1 times zoom doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. But if you do want to try try this out, you can tap on the 1x in camera and go through the software lenses that they have built in. Again, I just don't really know who or what this is for. So those are the most interesting hidden features and changes that I found on the iPhone 17s. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something new. If you did, drop a like down below. It seriously helps me and the channel out. And hit subscribe for more videos on the iPhone 17 moving forward. All right, I've been Sam. I hope all of you are doing well, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.